While the entire automotive world seems obsessed with one future electric vehicles, something unexpected has started brewing behind the scenes in Japan. Two giants, Honda and Nissan, have announced talks about joining forces, signaling that traditional automakers are under serious pressure to rethink what comes next. At the same time, Honda has been quietly working on something so different that it barely fits into today's EV conversation. No petrol, no plug-in charging. And according to Honda's leadership, something that could shake the entire electric vehicle narrative. At first, it sounds almost impossible. The world is racing toward EVs. Governments are pushing bans on petrol engines, and companies like Tesla dominate headlines. So why would Honda take a completely different route? What if the future engine doesn't need fuel stations or charging cables? That's the question Honda is daring the industry to ask. The answer leads straight to hydrogen. To understand why this move matters, you have to understand where Honda comes from. Long before boardrooms and global sales charts, there was Soichiro Honda. Born in 1906, he wasn't a corporate visionary in a suit. He was a grease-covered inventor who loved speed, machines, and experimentation. His early years were spent fixing bicycles and engines in his father's workshop. Failure followed him often, but quitting never did. Even when his piston ring business collapsed during World War II and his factory was bombed, he rebuilt from scratch. After the war, Japan was desperate for mobility. Fuel was scarce, money was tight, and people needed something simple. Soichiro Honda did something radical. He mounted surplus generator engines onto bicycles, creating a crude but effective motorized bike. That small idea exploded. In 1948, Honda Motor Company was born. From there, Honda didn't just grow, it dominated. Motorcycles conquered global racing. Cars earned a reputation for reliability and fun. Engines became Honda's identity. Over the decades, Honda proved again and again that it doesn't follow trends blindly. In the 1970s, its CVCC engine met strict U.S. emission rules when others struggled. Later came VTEC, squeezing power and efficiency out of small engines. Honda didn't just adapt, it redefined what engines could do. Even when hybrids first appeared, Honda was early, showing that efficiency didn't have to be boring. Today, Honda sells over 4 million cars a year and builds more engines than any other company on Earth. Cars, bikes, jets, Formula One power units, it moves. Honda likely powers it. But instead of rushing headfirst into the EV gold rush, Honda paused, and that pause was intentional. Electric vehicles exploded into the mainstream fast. Governments offered incentives. Charging stations multiplied. EVs became symbols of progress. But as adoption grew, cracks started to show. Batteries rely on rare materials like lithium and cobalt. Mining them damages ecosystems. Charging still takes time. Power grids strain under rising demand. And battery degradation remains a quiet fear for buyers. Honda noticed something else too. For many drivers, EVs solved one problem while creating others. Range anxiety, long charging waits, rising electricity costs, and behind all of that, a bigger question lingered: are we actually building the cleanest solution or just the fastest one? That's where hydrogen enters the picture. Hydrogen isn't new to Honda. In 2015, the company launched the Honda Clarity fuel cell, one of the first hydrogen cars available to consumers. It was smooth, silent, and emitted nothing but water vapor. It could refuel in minutes and travel farther than most EVAs of its time. On paper, it was brilliant. In reality, it arrived too early. Hydrogen stations were rare. Public understanding was low. EVs were getting all the attention. By 2021, Honda quietly ended the Clarity program. But Honda didn't abandon hydrogen. It studied the failure, and trust, once established, has a way of outlasting trends. Long after new launches steal the spotlight and newer technologies dominate headlines, trust keeps people loyal. It influences second purchases. It shapes recommendations. It quietly turns first-time buyers into long-term customers. That's why this moment matters more than it seems. Because what's being built here isn't just market share, it's belief. You can already see the early signs. People who once said, "I'll buy a car someday," are now saying, "This feels doable." That shift from hesitation to confidence is rare in the automotive world, especially in the budget segment. Usually, affordability comes with anxiety. Here, affordability comes with reassurance, and that flips the entire ownership story. There's also an unspoken social effect. Car ownership in many Asian societies is deeply tied to identity and progress. Owning a car signals stability. It signals growth. When that milestone becomes achievable without financial strain, it changes how people view their own trajectory. It's no longer a distant goal. It's a practical step forward. From an industry perspective, this creates a new baseline. Future strategies will have to acknowledge that buyers now know what's possible. They've seen that safety doesn't have to be sacrificed, that running costs can stay reasonable, that simplicity can outperform complexity. Once those ideas take root, rolling them back becomes nearly impossible. And that's why this story doesn't end with one model or one launch. It becomes a reference point, a quiet benchmark that influences decisions far beyond its segment. It nudges the industry toward balance between innovation and accessibility, ambition and realism. The road ahead will still be full of change. New technologies will arrive. Regulations will evolve. But woven through all of that will be a lesson that's hard to ignore. Progress works best when it meets people where they are, not where projections say they should be. And in showing that so clearly, this car didn't just enter the market, it reset the conversation. And once a conversation resets, it doesn't go back easily. Every future announcement now enters a different room, one where expectations have shifted. Buyers listen more carefully. They question more openly. They compare more honestly. Flashy promises without practical answers feel hollow. Specs without context feel disconnected. The bar hasn't just moved higher, it's moved closer to reality. What's striking is how quietly this happened. No dramatic disruption, no sudden collapse of competitors. Just a gradual change in tone. Reviews became more grounded. Discussions became more practical. Instead of asking what a car could do someday, people started asking what it would cost them every month, every year, over 5 years. And in that framing, the answers became very clear. This also exposes a deeper truth about innovation. Real innovation isn't always about adding something new. Sometimes it's about removing the unnecessary, removing anxiety, removing excess cost, removing complexity that doesn't improve daily life. When you strip things down to what actually matters, what's left feels surprisingly powerful. For the industry, this moment will likely be studied more than celebrated. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's instructive. It shows what happens when a company aligns engineering, pricing, and human behavior instead of chasing trends in isolation. It shows that understanding people can be more disruptive than inventing something new. And for buyers, the takeaway is simple but lasting. They've been reminded that they have options, that patience is allowed, that choosing stability isn't settling, it's choosing wisely. That confidence doesn't come from owning the most advanced machine, but from owning something that fits. So, as the market continues to evolve, one thing is certain: the future won't arrive all at once. It will arrive in stages, shaped by products that respect timing as much as technology. And in that journey, moments like this matter, not because they scream the loudest, but because they quietly change how people think. That's the kind of impact that doesn't fade. It settles in, and once it does, the road ahead looks very different than it did before. And when the road looks different, behavior changes with it. Buyers stop rushing. They stop feeling pressured to keep up. They start making decisions on their own terms. That subtle shift ripples outward, affecting not just what people buy, but when they buy. And timing, in the auto industry, is everything. This is why the biggest impact of this car may not show up immediately in charts or quarterly reports. It shows up in hesitation, in delayed upgrades, in conversations that end with, "Let's wait." Every time that happens, it quietly reshapes demand. And when demand reshapes itself, supply has no choice but to follow. Manufacturers now face a tougher audience, one that has seen what's possible when priorities are aligned correctly, one that knows affordability doesn't have to feel fragile, one that understands that reliability isn't outdated, it's timeless, that awareness doesn't disappear with the next launch cycle, it compounds. Over time, this could lead to a healthier market, fewer rushed transitions, more thoughtful rollout, technologies introduced when infrastructure is ready, not before, products designed to solve real problems instead of creating new ones. In that sense, This moment may end up helping the industry as much as it challenges it, and for everyday people, the benefit is simple: less stress, more control. Fewer compromises disguised as progress. When a product respects the limits of its buyer, it earns something far more valuable than attention. It earns trust, patience, and loyalty. So, while history often remembers the loud revolutions, it's the quiet corrections that leave the deepest marks, the ones that don't announce themselves, but slowly redirect the path forward.